All right. According to my screen, we are recording. I seem to be having audio issues, as I usually seem to be doing every time we start. But anyway, I'll push forward. Actually, Vance, I can see you. If you can hear me, can you give me a thumbs up? I think that was a thumbs up. I hope so. Anyway, yeah, there we go. Okay, good. Yeah, like I said, for some reason I can't hear you guys, but as long as you can hear me, that's, I guess, all that matters, or more important. Anyway, really quickly for announcements, I said all week that I was going to do online office hours, but not in-person office hours today, but I will be in person as well. So if you need me, you can drop by online or in person. I wanted to clarify something with lab. I just thought about this last night. I know we started the semester saying that independent work was required, but then all of a sudden I changed it up and said, you know what, it's no longer required, it is now extra credit. I just don't want to give you guys false hope and think that that's going to happen with the lab, because some of you still are doing horrible in lab and haven't done anything to correct it. So lab is nothing, like I created independent work. That's something that's I do, and I'm one of the few people in this department who does it. That's not necessary. Independent work is not necessary. According to the university and the state of West Virginia, you have to have a lab component to this course. So if you're holding out hopes that if everybody does bad enough, like they were doing with independent work, and I'm going to say at the end of the semester, you know what, don't worry about it. Lab is now extra credit. That's not going to happen. So I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. I don't want you guys to be slacking off on lab thinking that it's not, at the end of the day, it's not going to matter, because it does matter. It's out of my hands. It is a state and university requirement. So anyway, there's that. And of course, the usual lab announcements, which is that the DNA lab is due tonight. Most of you hopefully are done now. I need to check. And I'll also remind you, I don't want you to think I'm slacking off on grading your lab reports. I want to say again, cough, cough, nudge, nudge. The longer I take to grade it, as long as it's done before I get around to grading it, then you're good. I have no way of knowing if you did it on time or if you did it before I saw it. So, I'm going to be grading it as soon as I can. But, if there's little things you want to touch up, now's the time to do it. Are there any questions? And if there are, you're going to have to type them, apparently, because I cannot hear you. All right, let's jump into it. We are going to finish up chapter 9, which was the chapter that seems to never end. And then we're going to jump into chapter 10 today. So at one point, I'm going to stop recording and then start recording again. We will do the usual attendance for those of you online. Actually, everybody's online today. So the attendance will be me giving you words, you sending me those words before 9 a.m. If they're after 9 a.m., then you need to wait for the questions. I would say, can someone confirm? Wrong button. But, son of a gun. Again, I can't hear you.
I can't see the PowerPoint.
Oh, I can hear you now. Yay. Good.
Usually you can start here,
once I get it going,
start sharing.
Can you repeat that?
I said usually you can start hearing us after you start sharing your screen.
Yeah, I've noticed that. It's very strange. And it's weird too. When I'm hearing you, it sounds like like your voice is coming from where the camera is, but whatever. We do what we can. Anyway, here we go. Hemophilia. We are talking about sex-linked genes. The last thing we talked about was red-green color blindness, and I reminded you, or I told you, that these are just examples. You do not need to know anything specific about these examples because, again, it's just an example. But you might have questions about these. Like, let me back up a slide. You might have questions where I ask you some question. I might ask you something like this, like, if we're talking about red-green color blindness, a carrier female, who's unaffected, but she has at least one of those recessive alleles, not both, so she doesn't have the color blindness, but she carries it. She mates with a male who is colorblind. What are the chances of them having a boy who is colorblind? And you would look and you would do a Punnett square and you would say, okay, 25%. What are the chances of having a normal boy? 25%. What are the chances of having a normal female? 25%. What are the chances, a carrier female? 25%. And what are the chances of having a colorblind female? 25%. course, I went through that quickly because my point being is you don't have to memorize anything. I just might ask you to do a Punnett square, in which case I would give you all the necessary information. Like this is a sex-linked gene, and it is found on the X chromosome, or it is found on the Y chromosome, whatever the case may be. So moving forward, that catches us up. We were talking about, or the next discussion on sex-linked genes is hemophilia. Hemophilia is a sex-linked recessive trait that has a long, well-documented history. History was the last word for attendance, if I remember correctly, on Wednesday, and we'll have it be the first word today. Anyway, again, what I'm about to tell you, it's just an example. These are details you do not need to know for the exam, but very quickly, I've already read all this, so you already know about hemophiliacs. I would say, though, if you're interested in history, you might look this up for independent work, like see how hemophilia actually kind of changed history, European history in a way. One could argue that if the Russian royal family didn't have it, I forgot the name of the child, but Alexis maybe, I don't know. One of the boys had the hemophilia, and because of that, they had a really weird guy that was living on the compound, and that was freaking everybody out, and that may have had a little bit of something to do with the Russian Revolution. But anyway, you can look into it if you want. Hemophilia. There we go. I would ask you if you have
say
questions.
It's going to be history, your first word again?
Yeah. I think I can hear you. If you asked if history is the first word for attendance, then yes.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, there's a little pedigree, and that is the Russian royal family. Yeah, Alexis, that is the name of the kid. So yeah, if he didn't have hemophilia, then they wouldn't have had the crazy guy living with them, and that may not have had the Russian Revolution. But anyway, every chapter ends with this, the evolution connection, and I'm going to skip it as I always do. But this one is an interesting one, so as always, I recommend reading it. It's good to get your brain thinking about these things. In this case, it's talking about dogs and how we've domesticated them, because evolution, usually people think of evolution and they think of natural selection, which is a good association to have in your brain, but evolution is a broader term. There's different ways things evolve. Natural selection is a big one, but then there's also artificial selection, which is what we do when we make all these different breeds of dogs. But anyway, read about it if you want. Yeah, that's it. And that's it for chapter 9. I told you it was going to be quick. So let me back out of here. We really almost finished it on Wednesday. I wish we could have. Hadn't I not rambled on so long during the announcements, we could have done it. Anyway, let me stop recording and then start recording again. While I'm doing this,